early stage seed, which usually means that there is some sort of prototype, not necessarily full revenue, but some customers that are using the product or service, and then go all the way to funding Series A and Series B, which usually have some revenue but need growth capital. And currently invest in New York City. So by virtue of that, we're looking at a lot of digital media, financial services, technology, advertising technology companies.
Okay, so it's mainly technology that you'd be focused on?
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes.
Thanks for that. Do you see many women entrepreneurs or startups sourcing venture capital coming to you specifically? And what percentage would you find that you fund of women startups?
Well, I think by virtue of being one of the few female VCs out there, I end up attracting a lot of women who are looking for funding. And as more and more women start businesses where women are also the primary consumers of the technology or service, I think the number of women seeking venture funding is only going to accelerate. And so I've been seeing that happen over the course of even the past year. So I think that's very encouraging, and it has a lot to do with just the number of women that are using technology. I mean, I wrote a piece in VentureBeat that was just published yesterday on the evolution of the online fashion industry. And if you look at a lot of the startups I refer to in that piece who are creating the next generation of fashion and commerce companies, a lot of the founders are women. So I'd say it's still a small percentage of the overall pool that I see, but it's only starting to accelerate. So I'm encouraged by that.
I am too. Thank you. I quote from a comment you left on Fred Wilson's blog. There are many groups in New York City that I have been actively involved with that are encouraging more tech entrepreneurship amongst women in New York, including Girls in Tech, Astia, Springboard, Women 2.0. I have mentored, organised, moderated and participated on countless panels on the topic and have invited men who make up a large percentage of my network to attend, but many do not. We need an inclusive conversation on the topic. One of them was held at Dogpatch, and many of the 2.0 something male entrepreneurs there.
I meant the 20-something male entrepreneurs. So I'd say the younger generation.
Yeah, sorry, 20-something male entrepreneurs there attended and commented that they found the conversation enlightening. What do you think needs to happen to encourage men to participate more fully with women in the entrepreneurial scene? And what have you found that works and what doesn't? Because obviously you've been trying to get them involved.
Well, I think there are two issues here. One is just general networking in the technology space. And I think that's happening organically as more women are starting businesses and going to these networking events and understanding that, this is where you can interact with other entrepreneurs and VCs, that interaction is already starting to happen. So that's good. So I go to, the New York Tech Meetup, and while it is still predominantly male, I still see a lot of women who I know are looking for funding, attending these events and interacting with other entrepreneurs and VCs. So that's happening. I think there's another issue around women and first-time entrepreneurs in general being able to actually close on the deal and get venture funding. And I think there needs to be a realization that men and women are different. I mean, there's been a lot of press recently, and I have to say my own experience verifies that women are more conservative a lot of times when they're putting together their business plans. And in my experience, have often weighed the risks a lot more, and so there'll be more of downside scenarios in their plans sometimes, or if they don't want to overcommit. And VCs are used to seeing things through a certain lens, and in terms of plans, and doing their standard haircuts of the plans, and so I just think there needs to be more of an understanding. And again, you don't want to overgeneralize, but there is some reality behind some of these real differences. And so those were, the topics and conversations that I think the men that were in attendance said they hadn't really thought about before, and found it interesting, because why would they think about it otherwise, unless they're hearing some extremely successful women there discussing it.
So what I'm hearing is that you, in a way, what works is actually sort of education or more awareness of the differences that women bring to pitching for venture.
Yes, the differences, and a recognition of what those differences may be, so it doesn't negatively impact them when they are out there looking.
Got it. That's great. Thank you for that. I'm sure other women would appreciate that information. What are some of the challenges you've had to face personally to be a female venture capitalist? Is there a huge list?
Well, I love the industry. I feel extremely fortunate to have found something that I love doing so much, that often doesn't feel, or most often doesn't even feel like a job. So, that's first and foremost. I think it's always interesting to be the only one of anything in a room, and there are times when I notice it, and there are times I don't. But I'm often, most often, the only woman on a board. I do think I bring a different perspective. That's being a woman, being a minority, and there's a whole set of experiences I bring to the table, and everybody brings their own, but there's not enough of me, I believe, out there in terms of perspectives. So, and often having to argue more for that perspective, or recognize that I'm going to have to sometimes work a little bit harder to get others to see that perspective. But to me, that's a small price to pay for doing what I enjoy doing.
And being a pathfinder, you've obviously got that those qualities and abilities to break the ground for other women. So that must also fire up your passion, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It's the number of women who write me every day from around the world, talking about how they heard me speak, or if they saw a clip, or if they read something that inspired them, or I put them in touch with somebody that was helpful. So to me, that's a huge part of my work, and what I can do to help.